Welcome to the roads of the damned. They say the Pacific Northwest is home to breathtaking beauty, towering forests, fog-drenched coastlines, and winding mountain roads. But beneath that scenic charm lurks something far more chilling. The highways that cut through Washington, Oregon, and Idaho have been the stage for unspeakable horrors. Shadowy figures that vanish when approached, phantom hitchhikers with hollow eyes, and curses that follow you home. Tonight, we invite you to buckle up for a terrifying journey. This isn't your typical road trip. We're venturing deep into the unknown, to places where truckers dare not pull over, where phones lose signal, and where time seems to bend. From forested mountain passes where screams echo without a source, to coastal highways that whisper the names of the dead. These haunted routes are legendary. So, grab a warm drink, dim the lights, and maybe keep your car keys close, just in case. Here are the 20 most haunted highways in the Pacific Northwest, and the ghostly legends that still haunt them to this day. Highway 2, winding its way through the Cascade Mountains of Washington, is known for more than just its breathtaking vistas and dramatic mountain scenery. It's a road that carries a darker reputation, one whispered about by late-night truckers, muttered by locals, and nervously joked about by tourists passing through. Especially near Stevens Pass, a stretch known for brutal weather and steep terrain, a legend lives on. The phantom hitchhiker of Highway 2. She's been seen for decades. Some say it's been over 100 years. Others claim she appears only under certain conditions, fog, snow, or when the air is unnaturally still. Most reports come near the Iron Goat Trail area, where the mountainsides are steep and the forests dense. Those who've encountered her all tell nearly the same story, even though most have never met. She appears suddenly, usually just off the shoulder of the road, her pale figure barely visible through the swirling mist. Her hair is long and dark, wet as if she's just come in from a storm. Witnesses say she raises one hand, not to wave, but to plead silently as if asking for help she desperately needs but cannot voice. Some drivers report feeling a chill before they even see her. Radios crackle with static. GPS systems glitch. Then the headlights catch something, a glimpse of a figure, motionless, just at the edge of the beam. Drivers who don't stop often feel a rush of guilt, a gnawing sensation that stays with them for miles. Those who do stop rarely forget what happens next. She never speaks, never blinks. She merely stands there, eyes wide and haunting. And as the driver leans over to open the passenger door, she vanishes. Just like that. No footsteps, no sound, just an empty seat and the heavy, eerie silence that follows. Some say the air grows colder inside the vehicle for the rest of the drive. Others claim their engines struggle to restart. And for a few unfortunate souls, she appears again in their rearview mirror. Much farther down the road, truckers, grizzled men who've seen accidents, blizzards, and near-death experiences, reefs to drive this stretch after nightfall. It's become a kind of professional rule among long haulers. There are too many stories, too many unexplained events. Some even claim to have picked her up, felt the weight of someone in the seat next to them, only to glance over and see nothing there. The most widely accepted origin of the legend ties her to one of the darkest events in Washington's history, the Wellington Avalanche of 1910. That winter, a massive snowstorm buried the area in over 10 feet of snow. 2 trains, stranded near Stevens Pass, were waiting out the storm. But on March 1st, a colossal wall of snow broke loose from the mountains above, sweeping the trains off their tracks and into the valley below. 96 people died. It remains the deadliest avalanche in U.S. history. Local historians have often wondered if the woman in white was one of those victims. Perhaps a passenger who never made it home. A young woman separated from her family. Maybe she was waiting for someone to find her, to dig her out, to rescue her. Or maybe, even in death, she's still trying to complete a journey that ended too soon. Some say her spirit walks Highway 2. Because the train line ran parallel to it in those days, so close, and yet never reaching safety. Skeptics argue it's just an urban legend, fueled by fear and coincidence. But the consistency in the sightings is hard to ignore. Over the years, police logs have quietly recorded multiple 911 calls reporting a woman in distress near that area. Search teams have been dispatched, only to find no trace, no footprints in fresh snow, no tire marks leading off-road, just untouched wilderness sand, silence. And it's not just drivers. Hikers along the Iron Goat Trail built along the old railroad line have shared unsettling encounters, the distant sound of someone crying, though no one else was on the trail. Cameras malfunction, cell phones die without warning. Local lore has embraced the phantom hitchhiker as part of Stevens Pass's identity. Campfire stories often end with her chilling reappearance. Some believe she's a warning, a reminder of how fragile life is in the mountains. Others think she's still waiting for someone specific, someone she loved, to come find her. There are darker theories, too, that she isn't just a lost soul, but something else, a spirit turned vengeful after a century of abandonment. That those who see her more than once may not be lucky, but marked. A few disappearances along the pass over the years have fed these suspicions. Hikers never found. Vehicles found abandoned on the side of the road with no sign of the driver. But perhaps the most unsettling part of her legend is the quiet, aching sorrow people report feeling after seeing her. She isn't malevolent. She isn't angry. She's alone, tragically alone. Her eyes, those who've met her say, are full of a longing that doesn't end. And maybe that's why the story stays with people long after the drive is over. Highway 2 remains a beautiful, yet ominous drive through Washington's wilderness. It twists through towering evergreens and past sheer cliffs, shadowed by the ghosts of history. But if you find yourself driving through Stevens Pass, late at night especially near the Iron Goat Trail, keep your eyes on the shoulder. Highway 101 is one of the most breathtaking routes in the United States, tracing the rugged Oregon coastline with panoramic views of the Pacific Ocean, towering cliffs, and dense coastal forests. During the day, it's a scenic dream for road trippers and photographers. But once the sun dips below the horizon and darkness spreads across the ocean, the highway transforms into something else entirely, a corridor of unease, where beauty meets tragedy, and silence hides voices that shouldn't be heard. Near the windswept cliffs around Heseta, Head Lighthouse, a location already steeped in maritime ghost tales, strange occurrences have plagued drivers and locals for decades. Many have reported one consistent and bone-chilling phenomenon: the sound of children crying, disembodied, distant, and soaked in sorrow. The cries echo faintly through the night air, sometimes so real and urgent that drivers have pulled over, convinced someone needs help. The legend begins with a tragic accident that reportedly occurred in the 1950s. As the story goes, a young mother was traveling with her two small children on a stormy night. Rain pounded the windshield, and gusts of wind howled through the narrow roadways carved into the cliffs. Somewhere near Heseta Head, the car lost traction on the slick road. With a screech of tires and a flash of headlights, the vehicle plunged over the edge, tumbling down into the rocky surf below. No survivors were ever found. The sea, as it so often does, claimed the bodies and buried the evidence. But the story didn't end there. Not for the residents who live along that stretch. Not for the late-night travelers making their way through the fog and forest. And certainly not for those who believe the mother and her children never truly left. Since that night, strange things have been reported in the area, stranger than mere coincidence or misperception. Motorists have described sudden cold spots inside their cars, even when the heater is blasting. Some say they've seen tiny handprints appear on fogged-up windows, often on the passenger side or rear windshield prints that fade just as quickly as they appear. Others report hearing faint sobbing, not from inside their vehicles, but from outside, carried on the wind through the trees and ocean mist. One man, driving home after a late shift in Florence, swore he saw two small figures standing by the roadside. He slowed, alarmed, but by the time he came to a stop, they were gone. All that remained were wet footprints on the shoulder of the road, too small to be from any adult. Another woman, visiting from out of state, claimed she was driving through a thick fog when she suddenly heard a child's voice whisper from her back seat. She turned around, panicked, but no one was there. Moments later, she felt a cold sensation pass through her body, like something unseen had moved through her. Paranormal investigators have taken great interest in the area over the years, particularly near the lighthouse and the narrow, winding cliffs of Highway 101 nearby. Using specialized audio equipment, several teams have captured EVP's electronic voice phenomena that defy explanation. The most chilling of these recordings is a faint, trembling voice of a child saying, "Help us." Another features a soft, almost melodic humming, like a lullaby sung through tears. The recordings have not been definitively debunked, and even skeptics have struggled to explain them. Locals have their own theories. Some say the children are still searching for their mother, unaware that they all perished together. Others believe the mother is the one still trapped, doomed to relive the moment of the crash, forever trying to protect her children. A few believe the accident awakened something more ancient than energy, tied to the cliffs and the sea, that now uses the tragedy as a vessel for its own haunting presence. There are also accounts from lighthouse keepers and overnight guests at the nearby Hiseta Head Bed and Breakfast, a historic building known for its own ghostly legends. Guests have reported hearing knocking on doors, footsteps in empty hallways, and once, the unmistakable sound of a child giggling just outside a window, despite no children staying at the inn. Some claim the spirits drift between the lighthouse and the highway, tied to the land rather than a single structure. The Oregon coast is notorious for shipwrecks, lost souls, and haunted coves. But something about this particular stretch of Highway 101 is uniquely unsettling. The fog lingers longer, the winds cry louder, and the silence, when it finally comes, feels heavier, like it's hiding something just out of sight. Perhaps what makes these encounters so disturbing is their intimacy. These aren't angry spirits slamming doors or throwing objects. They're voices of sadness, of desperation, of innocence lost. Hearing a child cry is enough to unsettle anyone, but hearing it where no child could possibly be, on a lonely road with nothing but trees and cliffs for miles, that lingers. Travelers today still report strange feelings when passing through the area. Some say they feel watched. Others claim their dreams that night are filled with images they can't explain. Dark water, a screaming woman, headlights disappearing into the mist. A few never drive that stretch again after their encounter. They don't talk much about it, but when asked, their faces grow pale and their voices quiet. Highway 12 in Idaho is a stretch of road that winds through dense forests, rugged mountains, and along the banks of the Clearwater River. It's a scenic byway, by day serene, isolated, and deeply connected to the natural beauty of the region. But once night falls, the tone of the road changes. Locals know to be cautious, especially near mile marker 54, just outside of Lewiston. That's where the legend begins. That's where the man in the raincoat waits. No one knows exactly when the sightings started. Some say the earliest reports date back to the mid-1970s. Others believe the presence has been there far longer, passed down in whispers, before it ever made its way to local newspapers or paranormal message boards. What is certain is this: those who VA-driven Highway 12 late at night speak of a tall figure, dressed in a long dark raincoat, standing perfectly still by the roadside. His coat appears soaked, glistening in the glow of approaching headlights, though the skies are often clear and the pavement dry. The man never moves, never raises a hand or steps forward. He simply stands motionless and watchful, as if waiting for something or someone. His face, if visible at all, is pale and indistinct. Some witnesses claim it's completely obscured by shadows or by the brim of a hat. Others say he has no face at all. And it's not just his eerie presence that unsettles drivers. Vehicles tend to act strangely near him. Radios cut out, plunging the car into silence. Headlights flicker and sometimes go out altogether, forcing drivers to slow down in fear. Dashboards flash warning lights for no reason, and in some cases, engines stutter or stall. But once the driver gets past mile marker 54, everything returns to normal as if nothing happened. One of the most chilling accounts came from a couple driving home to Lewiston after a weekend camping trip. It was just past midnight when they spotted the man in the raincoat standing exactly at the mile marker. They assumed he was a hitchhiker, though they were puzzled by how out of place he looked, soaking wet in perfectly dry weather. As they approached, their radio buzzed into static. The headlights dimmed. The driver swerved slightly but couldn't avoid him. They felt the thud. Both screamed. The car skidded to a halt. But when they got out to check, nothing. No man, no body, no torn clothing or sign of impact. Just a single puddle on the dry asphalt, slowly evaporating in the cool night air. They drove away in silence, shaken to their core. When they reported the incident to local police the next day, they were met with a knowing look. The officer didn't laugh, didn't question them. Instead, he simply nodded and said, "Mile 54. As the legend spread, more stories surfaced. A trucker once claimed that he passed the man in the raincoat multiple times in one night, each time farther down the highway. Another driver, a delivery worker for a nearby town, swore he saw the man standing in the middle of the road. When he hit the brakes and looked up again, the road was empty. He never drove that route after dark again." Some locals believe the man is the ghost of a man who drowned in the Clearwater River after a fatal car accident in 1973. The story goes that his vehicle skidded off the highway during a rainstorm and plunged into the river below. His body wasn't recovered for several days, and by then, his rain-soaked coat had become almost fused to him. His death, tragic and lonely, left a scar on the land, and some say his spirit returned to the very place he died. But others aren't so sure. Some old-timers in town say the raincoat man predates that accident. That before 1973, people used to speak of a watcher along the river. Something not quite human. Something tied to the water and the storm. These versions of the legend speak of Native American folklore, of spirits that guard certain places or appear as warnings. A few even suggest the man in the raincoat is a harbinger, sign that something worse is coming. Regardless of the origin, the presence is real enough to those who've seen it. Paranormal investigators have tried to document the phenomenon, setting up motion detectors, cameras, and audio recorders along mile marker 54. Most of the footage returns clean except for one or two frames showing what appears to be a tall, indistinct shape just outside the camera's range. Chuckanut Drive, a narrow and winding highway carved into the cliffs just south of Bellingham, Washington, is one of the most scenic routes in the Pacific Northwest. Stretching between Blanchard and Fairhaven, the road hugs the coastline, offering breathtaking views of the Salish Sea, forested hills, and distant islands. Tourists flock to the route during the day, snapping photos and enjoying the peaceful beauty of the coast. But when night falls, Chuckanut transforms into something else entirely, a place where time bends. Shadows stretch, and the dead seem unwilling to rest. Locals have long whispered about the strange occurrences on Chuckanut Drive after dark. Drivers report seeing phantom vehicles barreling toward them, headlights blazing. The cars appear suddenly in the narrow lane, giving drivers only a second to react. But just before impact, they vanish completely, without a sound or trace. No screech of tires, no broken glass, just empty road and pounding hearts. Some of these sightings have been so vivid that drivers have pulled over in shock, certain they were just in a head-on collision. Others have swerved into ditches, only to look back and find no other car in sight. Police occasionally respond to calls about near misses or reckless drivers in the area, but they never find another vehicle involved. No tracks, no witnesses, nothing but fear in the eyes of the shaken. And it's not just phantom cars. Several people have reported seeing figures walking along the narrow shoulder of the road, ghostly, translucent, and always alone. They appear just ahead, barely lit by headlights, wandering close to the guardrails. As drivers approach, the figures turn their heads slowly, as if making eye contact, before stepping off the edge of the cliff, but they never reach the water. Witnesses describe the figures vanishing mid-fall, dissolving into the air like mist. No splash, no sound, just an eerie silence and a sudden, bone-deep chill. Many drivers who witness this refuse to return to Chuckanut at night, and some have sworn off the road entirely. The legends surrounding the road trace back to a tragedy in the 1930s, when a bus full of passengers was traveling the route during a torrential rainstorm. A landslide struck without warning, sweeping the bus off the edge and down into the rocky coastline below. The exact number of passengers is unknown, but it's believed that everyone on board perished. Due to the treacherous terrain and relentless tides, the wreckage was never recovered. No bodies were ever found. That tragedy, combined with the isolation of the road and the violent nature of coastal weather, helped solidify Chuckanut Drive's haunted reputation. Many believe that the spirits of those passengers still travel the route, trapped between worlds and doomed to replay the final moments of their journey. Some say the phantom cars are echoes of that lost bus flashes from a looped tragedy that refuses to fade. Paranormal investigators have explored the area multiple times, drawn by the high number of eyewitness accounts. EVP recordings have captured strange whispers voices, saying things like, "We're late, can't stop," or simply calling names into the darkness. Thermal cameras have picked up unexplained heat signatures just off the cliffs, only for them to vanish seconds later. Even skeptics have walked away from Chuckanut with unease, unable to fully explain what they experienced. There are darker stories, too less common, but far more disturbing. One man claimed that after driving the road at midnight, he started seeing a pale woman in the back seat of his car every time he looked in the rearview mirror. She never moved, never spoke, but her eyes never blinked. He said she stayed there until he reached the end of the drive, then disappeared without a sound. Another woman described being followed by a car with old-fashioned headlights that never passed her. It stayed a fixed distance behind her for nearly 10 miles, then simply vanished as she rounded a bend. Some believe the energy of Chuckanut Drive is tied to the natural elements surrounding it. The cliffs are jagged, unstable in places, with sections regularly closed due to rock. The tides below are unforgiving. Trees grow twisted and close to the road, casting long shadows that dance in headlights. The whole environment feels like it's holding its breath, beautiful but haunted, like a painting with a secret. Today, Chuckanut remains a popular destination by daylight. Cyclists, hikers, and sightseers travel it daily without incident. But ask anyone who's lived in Bellingham long enough, and you'll likely hear the same advice. Don't drive it after dark, not alone, not without reason. And if you see headlights coming toward you and no car ever passes, don't stop. Just keep driving. Interstate 5, stretching from the Canadian border down to California, is the lifeline of the West Coast. It's a bustling artery for commerce, tourism, and daily life. But somewhere between the rhythm of speeding cars and the endless green canopy of the Pacific Northwest, something unnatural lingers. Just north of Portland, near Ridgefield, Washington, 1 to 5 takes a dark turn, one that countless drivers have experienced, but few can explain. It's a place where the air grows colder, the trees press in tighter, and the night carries with it a scream that chills the blood. Near mile marker 14, the reports begin. Drivers traveling late at night, especially between midnight and 3 a.m., have described hearing something that doesn't belong on a highway. A scream high-pitched, human, and filled with unmistakable pain. It doesn't come from another car. It doesn't come from the radio. It comes from the trees. The noise is described as guttural at first, almost like an animal. But then it builds into something clearly human, unmistakably female, and filled with a terror that reaches deep into the bones. It's a scream that doesn't fade with distance. In fact, many who hear it say it follows them, clinging to the air like fog, echoing just outside their window, no matter how fast they drive. The sound snakes through the forest, moving as if alive, refusing to be left behind. Not everyone hears it. It seems to favor solitary travelers, lone truckers, and the unlucky few who happen to be on that stretch of highway when the conditions are just right: cool nights, heavy fog, and a moonless sky. And those who stop to investigate. Most don't talk about it. The few who have returned from the woods say nothing, their eyes sunken, their voices trembling. One man, a hiker who veered off the freeway in the hopes of chasing down what he assumed was a wild animal, came stumbling out of the forest an hour later. He refused to explain what he saw. All he could say was, she's still out there. The local legend that surrounds this section of I-5 dates back to the early 1970s. A woman in her early 20s, her name has long since been lost to time, was reportedly abducted while hitchhiking along the highway. She was never found. According to whispers passed down through generations, she was taken deep into the woods near Ridgefield and left to die. Whether it was starvation, exposure, or something far worse, no one can say for sure. But the forest remembers. Residents who live near the stretch of highway have their own stories. Some speak of hearing the scream from their backyards on especially quiet nights. Others claim to have seen a pale figure dart between the trees, always just out of reach, always vanishing before they can get a clear look. Dogs bark at nothing. Lights flicker. And sometimes, cell phones stop working entirely until the sound passes. One woman, a longtime Ridgefield local, told of a night she had car trouble near mile marker 14. As she waited for roadside assistance, she heard rustling in the trees. Then, the scream. It started faint, like someone crying far away. But it grew louder, closer, more desperate. Her headlights flickered. Her radio burst into static. By the time help arrived, she was curled up in the back seat, shaken, clutching her ears. She never drove that stretch of I-5 again. Paranormal investigators have visited the area on multiple occasions. EVP recorders have picked up what some believe to be the faint sound of sobbing, and thermal cameras have shown brief flashes of heat in the shape of a person only to vanish seconds later. Some teams have tried to spend the night in the woods nearby, only to pack up and leave long before dawn. One investigator reportedly left his equipment behind and never returned to retrieve it. Skeptics, of course, dismiss the stories as nothing more than highway fatigue, a trick of the mind amplified by isolation and the monotony of the road. But even seasoned drivers, those who've logged thousands of miles across the country, admit there's something different about this stretch of I-5. Something wrong. Something you don't feel until you're already in it. There are rumors of more recent sightings. Some say the woman appears in the rearview mirror for just a second, her face pale and contorted, eyes wide with fear. Others claim to have seen her standing by the side of the road, her mouth open in a scream you can hear until the windows fog up and the sound hits all at once. Today, the area near mile marker 14 looks deceptively ordinary. Just another piece of the interstate. But those who know the stories, those who've heard the scream, drive a little faster through this stretch. Some turn their music up, hoping to drown it out. Others don't take any chances. They avoid that part of the road after dark altogether. Route 30, weaving through the historic port town of Astoria, Oregon, is known for its stunning views of the Columbia River and its connection to the area's rich maritime past. But beneath the charm of old cannery buildings and mist-covered forests lies a haunting presence. That's what's gonna put you. That S left an indelible mark on those who travel the road, especially near the stretch just before the Lewis and Clark Bridge. That's where people say she appears. The woman who floats. She isn't running. She isn't walking. She's floating, silent, pale, and still. Dozens of drivers, mostly those passing through in the early morning fog, have reported seeing a female figure hovering inches above the pavement. She doesn't block the road or move toward vehicles. She simply floats, facing oncoming traffic, with her eyes locked on the driver as they approach. And those eyes, by every account, are wide open and utterly lifeless. The first documented sighting dates back to the late 1960s. A long-haul trucker reported seeing a woman in a white dress standing in the middle of the road. Around 4 a.m., he slammed on the brakes, certain he would hit her, but his truck passed through where she stood. When he looked back in his mirror, she was gone. What shook him most wasn't just her vanishing, it was the deep, sudden cold that filled his cab, a chill that remained long after he'd driven miles away. Since then, the sightings have multiplied. Locals and tourists alike have encountered her, always in the same spot, just before the bridge, where the trees part and the fog clings low to the ground. Some have tried to dismiss it as a trick of the light, a hallucination caused by fatigue or the eerie atmosphere of coastal Oregon. But those who've seen her say it was real, terrifyingly real. One man, a delivery driver on a regular early route from Portland to Astoria, claims he's seen her 3 separate times. Each time, she appeared suddenly through the mist, forcing him to slow down. He described her as wearing a long, outdated dress, her dark hair tangled and wet, hanging in clumps over her face and shoulders. What disturbed him most, however, was the way she stood unmoving, unblinking, into the windshield as he passed. After each encounter, he reported feeling nauseated, confused, and unnaturally cold, even in the middle of summer. Another sighting came from a woman driving her teenage son to a rowing meet near the marina. As they neared the bridge, she noticed a pale shape up ahead. Assuming it was a pedestrian or someone needing help, she slowed down. But as they approached, the figure lifted slowly off the ground, her feet never touching the asphalt. Her son, sitting in the passenger seat, screamed. The woman vanished into the fog seconds later, but the air in the car had turned ice cold. The boy wouldn't speak for hours afterward. The floating woman is always silent. She never gestures, never makes a sound, and never appears to be moving, despite the way she hovers in place. Her face is pale, almost translucent, with sunken features and hollow eyes. Drivers have described feeling like time slows down when she appears, like the road stretches and everything else fades into the background. It's a moment of eerie stillness, followed by a deep, gnawing dread. Some believe she was a drowning victim, possibly someone who fell or was pushed into the Columbia River decades ago. A few local stories link her to a woman whose car went off the road near that same stretch in the 1940s, never to be found. Others think she's tied to the area's long and tragic maritime history. Perhaps a wife or daughter waiting for a sailor who never returned. Whatever her origin, she's become a part of Astoria's modern folklore, blending seamlessly with the town's existing legends of lost ships, lighthouse hauntings, and coastal spirits. Paranormal enthusiasts have investigated the area multiple times. Recordings often come back with strange static or faint whispers, though nothing definitively proving her presence. Thermal imaging has occasionally shown cold spots near the shoulder of the road, even on warm days, and some investigators have reported feelings of dizziness or confusion after standing where she's most often seen. Even skeptics who traveled Route 30 at night admit there's something unusual about that stretch of road. The fog settles thicker, the silence grows heavier. It's the kind of place where sound disappears into the trees and headlights barely cut through the mist. A place where the past doesn't feel quite finished with the present. Many Astoria locals don't like talking about her. Those who believe in the floating woman say acknowledging her gives her strength. They offer quiet warnings: instead drive with your windows up, don't stop near the bridge, and if you see her, don't look into her eyes. Because those eyes, they say, have a way of staying with you, in your dreams, in your rearview mirror, and sometimes, even long after you've left Astoria behind. Highway 26 in Oregon's Mount Hood corridor is a breathtaking stretch of road, winding through thick forests, alpine vistas, and scenic byways. But for all its natural beauty, a dark legend lingers among the towering pines and cold mountain air. Especially near Government Camp, travelers have spoken in hushed tones about a terrifying sighting apparition unlike any other. The burning truck. The legend of the burning truck has roots in a tragedy that occurred in the early 1950s. According to reports from the time, a semi-truck carrying fuel was making its way through the corridor during a snowstorm. Visibility was poor, and the driver, pushing to make up for lost time, lost control near a sharp curve. The truck jackknifed and careened off the road, crashing into a rocky embankment. The force of the impact ruptured the tank, and within seconds, a massive explosion lit up the mountain. Witnesses miles away reported seeing the fireballs shoot into the sky. The driver was never found, either incinerated in the blaze or thrown from the cab into the snowy woods. Some believe he never left that mountain. Years later, eerie sightings began to surface. Motorists began to describe a flaming semi-truck appearing suddenly in their rearview mirrors, often on dark, isolated stretches near Government Camp. The truck would seem to gain on them quickly, roaring forward with a sound like hell itself. Its headlights would flicker and pulse like dying embers. The flames would pour from the cab, licking the sky as it sped forward without regard for the laws of physics or the road. But just as it seemed inevitable that the fiery truck would crash into the car ahead, it would vanish. No impact, no sound, just silence. The first widely reported modern sighting came in the late 1970s. A man named Carl Peterson, a long-haul driver from Idaho, was traveling west through the corridor late one night. As he climbed the grade toward government camp, he noticed headlights behind him, too close and gaining fast. He moved to the shoulder to let the vehicle pass, but what he saw next chilled him to the bone. The truck was completely engulfed in flames, but its shape and movement suggested no damage or weight loss. In fact, the cab was intact, and Carl swore he could see a driver. Inside, though, he said the figure was little more than a black silhouette against the orange blaze. Carl pulled over in fear, only to watch the truck roar past and disappear into the snow-laced fog. Over the years, more stories like Carl's emerged. A young couple returning from a ski trip in 1993 claimed the truck appeared behind them without warning. The woman, riding in the passenger seat, turned to look and immediately began to scream. She said the driver's face was visible through the windshield, charred, eyes burning white-hot and fixed on them. The man driving swerved off the road in a panic, crashing into a snowbank. When they climbed out of the car, there was nothing on the road but tire tracks their own. Park rangers and state patrol officers have heard these stories for decades. Most dismiss them as stress-induced hallucinations, effects of fatigue or weather. But even seasoned officers have encountered strange phenomena. One ranger, now retired, once admitted he saw something glowing down the road while patrolling at dusk. He thought it was a car on fire and radioed it in. But by the time he reached the spot, there was nothing. No wreckage, no heat, not even skid marks. Skeptics point to the dangers of Highway 26 itself. The Mount Hood corridor is known for rapid weather changes, slick roads, and steep curves. Combine that with exhaustion or even carbon monoxide buildup in older cars, and you have a recipe for hallucinations. But even the skeptics struggle to explain how so many witnesses describe the same truck, the same driver, and the same sensation of being hunted by something not entirely of this world. What sets the burning truck legend apart is the emotional toll it leaves. Many who've seen it report a deep, lingering fear that lasts long after the encounter. Some say their radios go static right before the truck appears. Others report an overwhelming smell of diesel and smoke filling their cars moments before they even see the headlights. And the most chilling detail: none of these witnesses ever hear a sound, no engine, no tires on pavement, just the roar of fire inside their heads. But among locals and longtime travelers of Highway 26, the legend is well known. Some say the ghost of that long-lost driver is still trying to complete his final haul, doomed to drive through fire and ash for eternity. Others believe the mountain remembers, that the tragedy imprinted itself on the land, replaying the moment like a looped memory carved into asphalt and ice. Whatever the truth, one thing is clear: when you find yourself alone on Highway 26 near government camp, especially in the dead of night, keep your eyes on the mirror. And if you see flames creeping up behind you, don't panic. Just keep driving, because the burning truck doesn't crash, doesn't stop, and doesn't care who you are. It only knows the road. They say the Columbia River Highway, winding from Troutdale to the Dalles, offers some of the most breathtaking vistas in all of Oregon. Carved through cliffs and snaking alongside the Columbia River Gorge, it's a place where nature's beauty overshadows the bustling world. But on rainy nights, when the fog settles low and headlights dance on the slick pavement, travelers sometimes encounter something far more chilling than waterfalls or rocky outcrops: a spectral bride, soaked to the bone, wandering the roadside in search of a wedding that never came. Locals call her the drowned bride. She's become part of the area's whispered folklore, a tragic figure who appears when the rain is heavy and the night is still. Drivers have reported seeing her on the shoulder of the highway, not far from old stone guardrails and moss-covered trees. Dressed in a tattered white gown, her veil clings to her face, and her eyes are hollow with loss. She doesn't ask for help. She doesn't even speak. She just walks, slowly, deliberately, as if stuck in a loop she can't escape. The story behind the ghost is almost as haunting as the sightings themselves. According to legend, sometime in the 1930s, a young bride-to-be was en route to her wedding, set to take place in a small riverside church just east of the gorge. Her waited at the altar. Guests filled the pews, and a gentle mist began to fall as the ceremony time drew near. She was running late, they said, and had taken her father's old car alone, hoping to make it in time. But she never arrived. Somewhere near the area between Bridal Veil and Hood River, a sudden landslide, not uncommon in the rainy gorge, swept across the highway. Mud, rocks, and trees crashed down from the cliffs above, slamming into her vehicle and pushing it violently off the road. The car tumbled down the embankment, disappearing into the fast-moving waters of the Columbia River below. Rescue crews searched for days. They eventually located the wreckage of the car, submerged near the river's edge. Inside, there were remnants of a wedding dress and the bride's belongings, but her body was never found. Whether she had been thrown from the vehicle or carried away by the current, no one could say for certain. Her reportedly waited for her until long after midnight, refusing to leave the church. When the news reached him the next day, he was inconsolable. Over the decades, her story faded from public memory, until the sightings began. The first modern report came in the early 1970s. A truck driver pulled over near Cascade Locks after spotting what he thought was a woman in distress. He approached cautiously, noticing her drenched white dress and veil blowing in the windless air. But before he could say a word, she looked up and vanished into the fog. Since then, dozens of drivers have come forward with similar tales. Some saw her near Multnomah Falls, others closer to the Dalles. A few even said she appeared in the middle of the road, causing them to slam on their brakes in panic, only for her to disappear moments later. Each witness described a feeling of overwhelming sadness and confusion afterward, as if a piece of her sorrow clung to them. Even more eerie, some report seeing wet footprints leading off the road, though there had been no rainfall for hours. In one particularly chilling case, a couple returning from a wedding anniversary dinner swore they saw a figure in a wedding dress walking along a guardrail. When they turned their car around to check, no one was there. But the back seat of their car was inexplicably damp, as if someone had just climbed inside. Local law enforcement and park rangers have long dismissed the reports as folklore or the effects of late-night driving along a challenging highway. Still, the frequency of sightings and the consistency of the descriptions have made the drowned bride one of the most well-known ghost stories in the Pacific Northwest. Folklorists speculate that the bride is stuck between worlds, forever trapped by the trauma of her final moments. Her soul, they believe, still searches for the chapel she never reached, for the vows never spoken, for a life forever lost beneath the river's dark surface. Whether she's a lingering spirit, a figment of the imagination, or simply a tailspin to explain the dangers of a rainy highway, one thing is certain: those who've seen her don't forget her. And as long as storms roll in over the gorge, as long as mist clings to the road at night, the drowned bride of the Columbia River Highway will continue her mournful journey, forever seeking an ending that never came. Highway 197, winding through the quiet countryside south of Denver, Oregon, seems like a peaceful stretch of road during the day. But as darkness falls, this isolated route takes on a far more sinister character. Drivers who brave the highway after sunset have reported an eerie phenomenon that sends chills down the spine. The sound of a child's laughter echoing from the roadside, innocent at first glance, but deeply unsettling when you realize there's no one there to laugh. The laughter on Highway 197 isn't the joyful sound of children playing or families enjoying a summer evening. It's light and playful, yet oddly distant and hollow, like a broken echo trapped between worlds. It sometimes starts softly, barely audible, over the hum of a passing car, then grows louder, bouncing off the trees and empty fields. It's this mysterious giggling that has caused many motorists to grip their steering wheels tighter, accelerate away, or, in some cases, refuse to ever travel this road again after dark. Stories of the laughter date back several decades, entwined with local legends and whispers of tragedy. One of the most persistent explanations involves a school bus accident rumored to have occurred in the early 1960s. According to the tale, a school bus full of children lost control while traveling the narrow, winding road during a heavy rainstorm. The bus supposedly plunged down an embankment or crashed in a ravine not far from the highway. What makes the story chilling isn't just the crash itself, but the claim that the incident was covered up, erased from official records. No newspaper archives, no police reports, and no memorials exist to confirm the crash. Yet locals insist the event happened, and that the laughter heard along the road is the restless echo of the children who never made it home. Their spirits, trapped between this world and the next, play endlessly near the place where their lives were tragically cut short. Adding to the mystery is an old, dilapidated farmhouse situated a short distance from the highway. Once a lively homestead, the farmhouse has long been abandoned, its windows shattered and walls weathered by time. It sits shrouded by overgrown weeds and twisted trees, a haunting relic of a forgotten past. According to local lore, a family lived there decades ago, parents and 2 young children. One night, the entire family vanished without a trace. No signs of struggle, no indications of where they went, and no clues left behind. Some say the laughter is not just the spirits of the bus crash victims, but also those of the children from the farmhouse. The theory is that their souls linger, forever tethered to the land where their lives unraveled mysteriously. The laughter might be their way of reaching out, playing in the darkness, trying to make their presence known. Truck drivers and nighttime travelers have shared their encounters. One long-haul trucker recalls pulling over after hearing a clear chorus of children's laughter emanating from a nearby thicket. As he stepped outside to investigate, the laughter abruptly stopped. The only response was a sudden, oppressive silence that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Another driver said she saw fleeting shadows moving just beyond her headlights. Shadows shaped like children. But whenever she slowed down, the figures vanished. In some cases, drivers have reported more than laughter. Strange noises like footsteps crunching on gravel, distant whispers, and even the sound of children running through fields have been heard, though no one is ever seen. One couple, traveling the road late at night, described their radio cutting out just as the laughter started, replaced by a faint, eerie static that seemed to mimic faint giggles. Paranormal investigators have taken an interest in Highway 197, drawn by the persistent reports of unexplained sounds and apparitions. Some have recorded unexplained audio of children's laughter during their night visits. Despite the absence of any living children, others have noted sudden drops in temperature near the roadside, consistent with many hauntings. EMF meters spike unpredictably, and thermal cameras sometimes catch fleeting shapes darting between trees. Skeptics argue that the laughter could be the product of natural phenomena, wind whistling through the trees, animals mimicking human sounds, or the mind playing tricks on weary drivers. The isolated, quiet landscape of the area, combined with the darkness and silence, can make ordinary sounds seem distorted and eerie. Fatigue, stress, and the imagination may also amplify the experience. But those who have heard the laughter firsthand rarely dismiss it so easily. Many say the experience feels too vivid, too real, to be dismissed as mere coincidence. It's the unsettling feeling of being watched, followed by sounds that defy explanation. Local residents tend to avoid discussing the highway's nighttime mysteries openly, perhaps out of respect or fear. But if you ask around quietly, you'll hear warnings passed down from generation to generation. Dan T. Drive Highway 197 after dark. If you hear laughter, don't stop. Don't look for the source. Just keep moving. Whether the laughter belongs to lost children trapped in some eternal playtime, or echoes of forgotten tragedies long buried by time, it has become a permanent part of Highway 197's identity. The road is a reminder that beneath the quiet surface of rural Oregon, some shadows refuse to fade. Some stories refuse to be forgotten. For those brave enough to drive this stretch after dark, the sound of laughter in the dark is more than just an auditory illusion. It's a chilling connection to a past that never truly left, and a haunting invitation to listen closely, but never too long. Drivers traveling the winding stretch of Sunset Highway, also known as US 26, between Portland and the Oregon coast, often speak of its beauty. Towering evergreens line the road, mist creeps over the asphalt in the early mornings, and the view of the coastal mountains is enough to draw travelers from across the country. But hidden in this picturesque scenery lies a chilling legend that has unnerved even the most seasoned commuters. It is known simply as the tale of the howling hitchhiker. The story centers on a spot near milepost 41, close to a narrow tunnel carved through the mountain. Many travelers have reported seeing a lone figure on the side of the road, standing unnervingly still, with one arm outstretched and a thumb raised as if asking for a ride. From a distance, he appears ordinary, just another stranded motorist in need of help. His clothing is often described as simple: dark jeans, a flannel shirt, and heavy boots, the type you'd expect to see on someone used to outdoor labor. His head is usually lowered, his features hard to make out in the dim light of dusk or the glare of headlights. It's almost too easy to pity him, to feel the natural urge to pull over and help. But those who have stopped, or even slowed down, tell a far more terrifying story. As cars approach, the man slowly lifts his head, and witnesses say his face twists into something inhuman. His skin seems to stretch tight, his mouth elongates far beyond natural proportions, and his eyes, once hidden beneath his brow, turn solid black, like pits of endless night. Then comes the sound. A howl, not quite human and not quite animal, erupts from his gaping mouth. It is so loud, so unnatural, that several witnesses have described physically recoiling, clutching their ears as if to block out the pain. Some drivers slam their brakes in shock, unable to look back in their rearview mirrors for fear of seeing him again. And if you think the terror ends there, think again. Those who encounter the howling hitchhiker claim that even after leaving the scene, he doesn't truly disappear. Drivers have reported seeing him reappear further down the road, standing in the glow of their headlights again and again, as if he is bound to follow them until they reach the end of the highway. Some say he stands still. Others claim he walks slowly toward the car no matter how fast they drive. A few even report him suddenly appearing in the rear seat of their car when they dare to glance in the mirror. These accounts have led paranormal experts to warn: do not stop for him. Do not slow down, and most importantly, do not make eye contact if you can help it. Who is this tormented soul? No one knows for certain, but theories abound. Local lore suggests he was once a logger who worked near the area decades ago, killed in a landslide that buried him alive when blasting was done to create the tunnel. Others claim he was a young man who died in a car crash while hitchhiking to Seaside to see his family. His body never recovered. Some psychics who have visited the location insist his spirit is trapped between worlds, doomed to repeat his desperate plea for help, warning travelers of some fate that awaits them further along the road. But if that's true, no one has deciphered what that warning means. What makes the story even more chilling is the consistency of the sightings. Truckers, tourists, even Oregon State troopers have acknowledged hearing accounts of the figure near milepost 41. Some have brushed it off as tricks of light and imagination, but others have admitted there's something about that stretch of road that feels heavy. Drivers describe sudden drops in temperature, their radios cutting out to static, and headlights dimming unexpectedly. Cell signals weaken right near the tunnel, as if something drains the energy out of the devices. There have even been reports of drivers vanishing after their encounter. In one case, from the 1980s, a couple driving towards Seaside was found on the side of the road with their car still running and doors open, but the pair was gone. The investigation turned up no leads, but old newspaper clippings about the case are sometimes passed around by those who know the legend well. Whether the howling hitchhiker is a restless spirit, an omen of danger, or simply a trick of the mind brought on by the fog and isolation of the highway, travelers still talk about him, and every year, especially in the autumn months when twilight falls early and the mist rolls in thick from the coast, New stories emerge from startled motorists who swear they've seen the figure waiting just beyond the curve near milepost 41. If you ever find yourself driving Sunset Highway after dark and notice a man silently raising his thumb for a ride, remember the warning shared by those who came before you. Do not stop. Do not even slow down. Because once you see him, chances are you'll see him again and again. Mount Baker Highway, winding through the rugged North Cascades of Washington State, is known for its breathtaking scenery and challenging driving conditions. The road twists and turns along dense forests, rushing rivers, and snow-capped peaks. In winter, the highway becomes treacherous, blanketed by ice and snow, with avalanches a constant threat. But beyond the physical dangers of the weather and terrain, a more mysterious and unsettling hazard lurks, one that has haunted travelers for decades. The red-eyed watcher, near mile marker 39, where the highway cuts through thick, ancient woods. Many drivers report encounters with a tall, shadowy figure standing silently among the trees. This figure is described as unnaturally still, its presence marked by two glowing red eyes that pierce the darkness. It never approaches the road, never moves toward the cars or pedestrians, but it watches with an intensity that leaves witnesses shaken to their core. The first known reports of the red-eyed watcher date back to the mid-20th century, though locals believe the legend is much older, passed down through generations. Early accounts describe loggers and hunters who, working late in the dense forest, would catch glimpses of something enormous and motionless in the underbrush. Those red eyes, glowing in the dark, were said to follow every movement silently. Over time, as the Mount Baker Highway was constructed and more travelers began using the route, sightings increased, especially during the long, dark winters. The figure is always described in similar terms, standing at least 7 feet tall, completely black or shadow-like, with piercing red eyes that seem almost supernatural. It never speaks, makes no noise, and despite the close proximity reported by many, no one has ever seen it blink or move. It simply stands among the trees, its eyes fixed on the road, as if guarding something or waiting for something to happen. Many who have seen the red-eyed watcher describe an overwhelming feeling of dread and unease. Drivers report sudden chills, their breath fogging the inside of their cars despite the heater being on full blast. Others say their car radios crackle and fade as they approach mile marker 39, only returning to normal once they have passed. Cell phone signals often cut out in this stretch, leaving travelers feeling isolated. One common thread in many stories is that the watcher never reveals itself to multiple people at once. Sightings usually occur when a lone driver or small group passes by, giving the encounter a deeply personal and terrifying quality. People say the eyes seem to bore into them, stripping away their courage and leaving a lasting impression of fear. Local folklore offers several explanations for the red-eyed watcher. Some believe it is a protective spirit of the forest, watching over the wilderness and warning travelers of real dangers like avalanches, sudden snowstorms, or treacherous ice patches. Others think it is a malevolent entity, an ancient force that feeds on fear, stalking the highway and waiting to trap those who stray too close. A popular theory ties the watcher to Native American legends. Tribes from the region speak of forest spirits and guardians, beings who protect sacred lands and punish those who disrespect nature. The red eyes could symbolize a supernatural sentinel, watching over the balance between man and wilderness. Some elders warn that the watcher appears to remind people that the forest is alive and watching, especially in the harsh months when survival depends on respect for the land. One particularly chilling account comes from a snowplow driver who worked on the highway during the 1980s. He reported seeing the red-eyed watcher standing motionless beside the road during a fierce winter storm. The driver stopped his vehicle to check the road conditions and saw the figure watching silently from the tree line. He described feeling frozen with fear, unable to move or speak, as the eyes glowed brighter. When the storm suddenly cleared moments later, the watcher was gone without a trace. Another story involves a group of hikers who camped near the highway late in fall. At night, They heard footsteps outside their tents and saw a pair of red eyes glowing from the darkness. The eyes stayed in place for hours, never moving or blinking, watching the campers until dawn. The group left the area immediately, swearing never to return. Skeptics argue the red-eyed watcher is nothing more than a combination of natural phenomena, reflective animal eyes caught in headlights, or shadows playing tricks on tired minds. Deer, elk, and bears all inhabit the region and can reflect light in unsettling ways. Additionally, isolation and stress during winter driving can make ordinary shapes appear menacing. However, the consistency of the reports over decades, combined with the chilling experiences described, suggests something more enigmatic. Many who've had encounters say the Watcher's presence is more than just visual. It's an oppressive force that affects the atmosphere itself. Because of the legend, many locals avoid traveling the highway alone at night, especially near mile marker 39 during the winter months. Some carry talismans or perform small rituals for protection before entering the area. And while the State Department of Transportation warns drivers about icy conditions and avalanche zones, there's no official warning about the red-eyed watcher. That part of the story remains whispered among locals and travelers brave enough to share their experiences. Whether guardian or predator, protector or omen, the red-eyed watcher of Mount Baker Highway remains a mystery. It's a shadow in the night, a pair of glowing eyes that watches silently through the trees. For those who encounter it, the memory lasts long after the road curves away into the distance. A chilling reminder that some dangers lie beyond the ice and snow lurking in the darkness, waiting to be seen. Route 20, winding through Oregon's Santiam Pass, is renowned for its breathtaking landscapes and sometimes treacherous weather conditions. The highway cuts through thick forests and rugged mountains, a favorite route for travelers heading between the Willamette Valley and Central Oregon. But alongside the natural beauty, Route 20 carries a legend that has haunted drivers for decades. The story of the fog walker. This mysterious figure is said to appear only when the thick fog rolls in, often dense enough to blur headlights and swallow the landscape whole. At those moments, travelers report glimpsing a tall, humanoid shape silently moving across the road. Witnesses describe the figure as impossibly tall, with long, slow strides, gliding rather than walking, almost like it floats just above the asphalt. Despite its size, it emits no sound, not even the faintest rustle of footsteps or the brush of clothing. The fog walker is not just an eerie apparition. It is a harbinger of danger. Many who have encountered the figure report an overwhelming sense of dread and a sudden chill that settles inside their vehicles. There are stories of drivers braking hard or swerving to avoid hitting the shape, only to lose control of their cars moments later. The figure seems to vanish instantly, just beyond the reach of their headlights, leaving behind only the fog and the echo of their own racing heartbeats. One of the most chilling pieces of evidence comes from dashcam footage recorded by a driver traveling through Santiam Pass on a foggy night. The video shows a thick wall of mist ahead, obscuring the road. Suddenly, a pair of shadowy legs emerge from the fog just beyond the headlights' reach. The legs move slowly, as if crossing the road with deliberate care. Moments after the figure disappears from view, the vehicle swerves violently and crashes into the guardrail. The driver survived, but was hospitalized with injuries. The footage sparked widespread interest and fear, as it seemed to capture the fog walker in motion. Locals have developed several theories about the origins of this spectral figure. One popular explanation is that the fog walker is a forest spirit, a guardian of the wilderness that punishes reckless drivers who speed through the pass, without respect for the land or the conditions. The forests around Santiam Pass are sacred to many Native American tribes, and stories of spirits protecting the woods have existed long before the highway was built. The fog walker, in this interpretation, is a warning, an ancient force reminding people that nature demands caution and humility. Another theory ties the fog walker to a tragic event from the early 1900s. According to legend, a logger working in the Santiam Pass area was buried alive in a rockslide while cutting timber. His body was never recovered, and some say his spirit still wanders the mountain fog, trapped between worlds and doomed to roam forever. The logger's ghost is believed to appear to travelers, a silent warning to slow down and respect the dangers of the mountain. Those who have encountered the fogwalker often describe a sensation of being watched long after the figure disappears. Some say the presence lingers in their minds, haunting their dreams with fog-shrouded forests and silent footsteps. Others report hearing faint whispers or the rustling of leaves outside their windows in the dead of night, though no one else is around. Paranormal investigators and enthusiasts have been drawn to Santiam, pass by the stories. Using thermal cameras, EVP recorders, and EMF meters, they attempt to capture evidence of the fogwalker's existence. While conclusive proof remains elusive, many have recorded unexplained cold spots, strange noises, and fleeting shadows that fuel the legend. Skeptics argue that the fogwalker is a combination of natural phenomena and human imagination. The dense fog can play tricks on the eyes, causing shadows and light to appear as shapes or figures. Deer or elk caught in the mist might be mistaken for something more sinister. Additionally, fatigue, stress, and the inherent dangers of mountain driving can heighten a driver's sense of fear and create vivid illusions. Yet the consistency of reports from different witnesses over many years suggests that the fogwalker is more than just a trick of the light. Whether spirit, guardian, or ghost, it has become a defining feature of Santiam Pass's nighttime atmosphere. For those traveling Route 20 through the pass, the legend of the fogwalker serves as a cautionary tale. The mountain weather can change quickly, and the fog can appear without warning, reducing visibility to near zero. Drivers are urged to slow down, stay alert, and respect the road and its dangers. If you ever find yourself driving through Santiam Pass on a foggy night and catch a glimpse of a tall, silent figure gliding across the road just beyond your headlights, don't try to approach or follow. The fogwalker is a reminder that some forces on this highway are beyond human understanding. And sometimes, it's best to heed the warning and simply keep your eyes on the road ahead. Highway 395 stretches for hundreds of miles through the expansive, open landscapes of eastern Washington. It's a highway that cuts across rolling plains, arid hills, and stretches of seemingly endless sky. By day, it's a typical rural road, often quiet and sparsely traveled. But after dusk, the highway takes on an eerie quality, one that has given rise to the legend of the vanishing convoy. Travelers along this remote stretch have reported something strange and unsettling: the sudden appearance of a military convoy driving ahead of them. This convoy typically consists of several military vehicles, jeeps, trucks, sometimes even armored personnel carriers, that seem to materialize out of nowhere, moving steadily down the highway. Drivers often catch these vehicles in their rearview mirrors, watching the line of vehicles stretch down the road, headlights piercing the darkness. The peculiar thing about these convoys is that they never appear on any official monitoring systems. Traffic cameras placed along the highway, radar systems used by law enforcement, and even civilian GPS tracking show no record of these vehicles. It's as if the convoy is invisible to all technology, existing only to those who witness it firsthand. Many who have seen the vanishing convoy say it's impossible to catch up to or pass the vehicles. When drivers attempt to close the distance or follow the convoy off the main road, the entire procession simply vanishes, disappearing into thin air without a trace. Some drivers report their vehicles' instruments flickering or malfunctioning as they approach the convoy, adding to the unnerving atmosphere. This phenomenon has sparked numerous theories and speculations over the years. Some believe the convoy is part of secret government operations, covert military tests, or experimental technologies that are deliberately hidden from the public. Others suggest a more supernatural explanation: ghost convoys from World War II, phantom military units eternally patrolling the lands where battles once raged. One of the most chilling accounts comes from a Washington State patrol trooper who encountered the convoy on a foggy night while on duty. The officer was parked along the highway when a jeep led the convoy appeared suddenly, headlights cutting through the mist. As the convoy passed his patrol car, the trooper claimed the lead jeep drove directly through his vehicle, causing the patrol car to shake violently. When the fog cleared, The convoy had vanished, and the patrol car showed no sign of damage. The trooper was left shaken, questioning whether he had witnessed something supernatural, or had simply imagined the entire event. Local residents have their own tales of encounters with the vanishing convoy. Farmers, truck drivers, and travelers who frequent the highway at night share stories of hearing distant engine roars or the clatter of military vehicles on the gravel shoulders, only to find the road empty upon investigation. Some say the convoy moves silently, with engines running but no sound emanating, making it even harder to detect until the vehicles are nearly upon you. Historians and paranormal enthusiasts alike have tried to connect the convoy to the region's military history. Eastern Washington has long been home to military training grounds and airfields, with many operations dating back to World War II and the Cold War era. Some speculate that the vanishing convoy is a remnant of these times. Ghostly soldiers and equipment replaying drills from decades past, trapped in a loop between this world and the next. Skeptics, meanwhile, suggest more mundane explanations. Atmospheric conditions like fog, mirages, or reflections might create illusions of distant lights or vehicles where none exist. The sparse traffic and long stretches of dark highway could cause drivers' minds to play tricks, turning ordinary objects into something mysterious. Electronic malfunctions in vehicles could further contribute to reports of strange occurrences. Highway 410, winding its way through the rugged beauty of Chinook Pass in Washington, is a road known for breathtaking views and challenging driving conditions. But beneath its scenic exterior lies a darker story, one whispered among locals and travelers alike: the tale of the timber ghost. This spectral figure is said to haunt the thick forests lining the highway, particularly near the pass where towering evergreens stretch toward the sky. Witnesses describe the timber ghost as a skeletal figure, its skin appearing like cracked bark, blending eerily with the surrounding trees. It moves with unnatural speed and silence, darting between trunks and vanishing as quickly as it appears. The legend traces back to a tragic event from decades ago. A logger working in the dense forests around Chinook Pass was caught in a devastating accident when a massive tree fell and crushed him. His body was never fully recovered, swallowed by the wilderness he had spent his life working in. Some say his spirit could not find peace and now roams the forest, forever tied to the place of his death. Travelers recount chilling encounters with the timber ghost. Many have seen flashes of glowing axe blades swinging rhythmically in the distance, slicing through the thick silence of the woods. The sound of chopping wood echoes through the night, a steady beat that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Those who hear it say the sound is hypnotic, yet deeply unsettling, a reminder of a life ended too soon. Perhaps most disturbing are the strange tire tracks found near parked cars along the highway. These tracks form perfect circles around vehicles, as if an unseen presence drove around them in the dead of night. What's more perplexing is that often, no other vehicles were reported on the pass, leaving drivers puzzled and uneasy. Many believe these tracks are the work of the timber ghost itself, a spectral logger circling those who trespass on his domain. Local residents advise caution when traveling Highway 410, especially after dark or during foggy conditions when visibility is low. The timber ghost is said to be most active during these times, emerging from the shadows to warn travelers to respect the forest and its history. Some folklorists suggest the timber ghost may serve as a guardian spirit, protecting the land from harm or reckless intrusion. Others fear it is a restless soul, driven by pain and anger, doomed to haunt the very place where life was violently taken. Whatever the truth, the presence of the timber ghost has become an inseparable part of Chinook Pass's mysterious aura. Those who have encountered the timber ghost often describe a profound sense of unease, a feeling that they are being watched or followed. Some report sudden drops in temperature, or the sensation of something brushing past them in the forest. Cameras and recording devices occasionally capture unexplained shadows or faint shapes moving between trees. Though nothing definitive, skeptics attribute the stories to overactive imaginations, the interplay of light and shadow among the trees. or the natural sounds of the forest that can easily be misinterpreted in the stillness of night. Yet the consistency of the reports and the shared details among different witnesses make the legend difficult to dismiss entirely. Whether spirit, guardian, or apparition, the timber ghost remains a haunting presence on Highway 410 for those traveling Chinook Pass. The stories serve as a reminder that some roads carry more than just the weight of vehicles. They carry the weight of history, memory, and sometimes restless souls still walking among the trees. Route 99, stretching between Seattle and Everett, Washington, is a busy highway packed with traffic, businesses, and bustling urban life. But along a quieter stretch near some of the region's oldest hospitals and care homes long since closed and abandoned, a chilling presence has been reported for decades. Locals and drivers alike speak in hushed tones about the weeping nurse, a ghostly figure often seen wandering the roadside, dressed in the distinctive uniform of a 1950s nurse. Witnesses describe the weeping nurse as a woman in vintage nursing attire, complete with a crisp white dress, starched cap, and apron. Her face is pale and streaked with tears, and she clutches a blood-stained cloth tightly in her hands. She walks slowly along the edge of the road, her steps heavy with sorrow, her soft weeping carrying faintly on the wind. The apparition never acknowledges those who see her. She is locked in an endless loop of grief. The origins of the weeping nurse trace back to a tragic chapter in the Pacific Northwest. Medical history and outbreak of polio during the mid-20th century. During this time, hospitals and care homes along Route 99 were overwhelmed with patients suffering from the disease, including many young children. The nurse, whose name has been lost at time, was known for her dedication and compassion. She worked tirelessly, trying to save as many lives as possible, often sacrificing her own rest and safety. According to legend, one night during the worst of the outbreak, the nurse desperately tried to save a critically ill child who was slipping away despite every effort. She held the child's hand, applied treatments, and fought to keep hope alive, but ultimately the child died in her arms. Overcome with grief and guilt, she was said to have taken her own life shortly afterward, unable to bear the weight of the loss. Since then, countless drivers and pedestrians have reported encounters with the weeping nurse along this stretch of Route 99. Many describe her as a sorrowful figure who seems to relive that night repeatedly, her anguish manifesting as quiet sobbing and clutching of the bloodied cloth, a haunting reminder of the life she couldn't save. Psychic mediums and paranormal investigators who have explored the abandoned hospital sites nearby say the nurse's spirit is not malevolent or vengeful. Instead, she is a tragic figure trapped by her own heartbreak, replaying a moment of failure she could never let go. Mediums often describe feelings of overwhelming sadness and compassion when near her presence, as if bearing the emotional weight of decades-old grief. Several witnesses report other eerie phenomena accompanying sightings of the weeping nurse. Some have heard faint hospital noises, distant beeping monitors, the clinking of medical instruments, and soft footsteps echoing through empty halls. Others have experienced sudden drops in temperature, unexplained cold spots that chill to the bone even on warm days. Cameras set up near the old hospital ruins have occasionally captured fleeting images of a woman in white or unexplained orbs of light floating among the shadows. One particularly haunting account comes from a truck driver who regularly commutes along Route 99 at night. He described pulling over after seeing a woman standing near the roadside, dressed in old-fashioned nurse's garb, holding something red and wet in her hands. When he approached, the figure turned slightly and began to weep softly before slowly fading into the mist. The driver said the experience left him shaken, and he has avoided that stretch of road whenever possible ever since. The weeping nurse has become a fixture in local folklore. Her story passed down through generations as a reminder of the sacrifices made by medical workers during a dark period in history. Though the hospitals and care homes she once served are long gone, the sorrow she carries continues to linger on Route 99, a ghostly testament to loss, compassion, and the human cost of disease. Many who hear the story find a bittersweet comfort in the idea that the nurse's spirit remains bound, not by malice, but by an unending love and sorrow. Her presence serves as a solemn tribute to those who suffered during the polio epidemic and those who worked tirelessly to care for them. The weeping nurse's quiet mourning reminds us that some pain, no matter how old, never truly fades. For travelers passing this stretch of Route 99, especially after dark or in the misty rain common to the region, the legend of the weeping nurse is a chilling reminder of history's shadows lurking beneath the modern world. If you should see a woman in a white uniform walking softly by the roadside, clutching a bloodied cloth and weeping quietly, it may be the weeping nurse, still holding on to a moment she wishes she could change, still mourning a life lost long ago. In this way, the weeping nurse of Route 99 remains not just a ghost story, but a poignant symbol of sacrifice and remembrance. A silent guardian of memory, standing watch over a stretch of road steeped in sorrow and history. McKenzie Pass, nestled in the heart of Oregon's Cascade Mountains, is a place of breathtaking beauty and rugged wilderness. But beneath its scenic snow-covered slopes lies a haunting story that has been passed down for generations. A tale of tragedy, survival, and restless spirits. The story centers on the so-called Frozen family, a family lost to the merciless winter of 1937. That year, a bitter blizzard swept through McKenzie Pass with such fury that it buried the roads under thick layers of snow and ice. In the midst of this fierce winter storm, a family of four, a mother, father, and their two young children, tempted to cross the pass, perhaps driven by urgency, or maybe unaware of the true severity of the weather. They set out, with hopes of reaching safety on the other side. The snow fell relentlessly, and the temperature plummeted. Their vehicle became trapped in the deep drifts, immobilized in the middle of the wilderness. Days passed, and the family was nowhere to be found. Search parties scoured the mountain passes, but the blizzard had erased all tracks. It wasn't until several days later that rescuers discovered the family's frozen vehicle abandoned on the roadside. Nearby, the bodies of the mother, father, and one child were found, victims of the unforgiving cold. Miraculously, the other child, a small boy, was discovered wandering alone in the snow. Frostbitten, but alive, he was taken to safety, though the trauma of what he had witnessed would follow him for the rest of his life. Since that tragic winter, McKenzie Pass has gained a reputation among locals, hikers, and travelers for being haunted by the spirits of that family. Many who have passed through the pass during the colder months speak of eerie encounters. Some report seeing faint figures standing just beyond the roadside, barely visible through swirling snowflakes. Descriptions often include a mother and father, bundled in early 20th century clothing, their faces hauntingly pale and blue from cold, their eyes filled with silent pleas for help. Two children sometimes appear with them, one of whom is said to laugh, softly, a chilling sound carried by the cold mountain air. Visitors have described the sudden drop in temperature that seems to follow these apparitions, as if the spirits bring the winter's chill with them. Some drivers have claimed that their car heaters stopped working suddenly as they neared the spot where the family was lost. Hikers have recounted feeling an overwhelming sadness, as if the mountain itself mourns the loss of this family. One of the more unsettling phenomena is the fleeting laughter of the child. The sound is delicate but eerie, echoing faintly through the snow-draped trees. Those who hear it say it is both joyful and mournful at the same time, a paradox that reflects the child's survival against all odds, yet the sorrow of the family's demise. The story of the Frozen family has been passed down through generations of locals who live near McKenzie Pass. Some believe the spirits remain trapped, forever wandering the mountain where they met their fate. Others think the family's souls linger to warn travelers of the deadly winter conditions, a spectral reminder of nature's power and unpredictability. Over the years, hikers who have spent the night near the pass have reported strange dreams, often involving cold winds whispering through the trees and the image of a small boy searching for his lost family. These dreams sometimes come with a feeling of urgency and fear, as if the spirits are reaching out from beyond, trying to communicate their tragic story. Despite or perhaps because of these eerie tales, Mackenzie Pass remains a popular destination for adventurers. The natural beauty of the area is undeniable, with its winding volcanic landscapes, towering pines, and snow-covered vistas. Yet the shadow of the Frozen family's tragedy is never far away, adding a layer of mystery to the otherwise pristine wilderness. Local guides often share the story with visitors, urging caution during the winter months and reminding travelers to respect the mountain's dangers. The tale has become part of the cultural fabric of the region, a somber piece of history that intertwines with the natural world. In the end, the Frozen family's story is more than just a ghost tale. It is a reminder of the fragility of life in the face of nature's fury, the courage of a child who survived against all odds, and the lingering sorrow that can haunt a place long after tragedy has passed. For those who visit Mackenzie Pass, the whispers of the past may be heard on the wind, and the shadowy figures glimpsed through the falling snow serve as a poignant memorial to a family forever frozen in time. Old Spiral Highway near Lewiston, Idaho, is a marvel of engineering and a test of skill for anyone who dares to travel its winding path. Stretching 7 miles and boasting 64 sharp curves, this highway carves through steep hills and dense forests, offering breathtaking views that have drawn both drivers and thrill-seekers for decades. But beyond its scenic beauty, the highway is shrouded in a chilling legend, the story of the Phantom Racer. Locals describe Old Spiral Highway as a place where the boundary between the living and the spectral blurs, especially under the cover of night. Many have reported hearing the distant roar of motorcycle engines, the screech of tires fighting for grip around hairpin bends, and the rhythmic echo of revving motors piercing the silence of the dark. What makes these sounds eerie is the fact that no one ever sees any motorcycles or riders on the road. It's as if the highway itself comes alive after dusk, replaying a race from another time. The legend centers around a young man named Jack, who lived in Lewiston in the mid-20th century. Jack was known as a fearless motorcycle enthusiast who loved to push the limits on Old Spiral Highway. The road's challenging curves and steep drops offered the perfect proving ground for his daring spirit. On one fateful night, Jack decided to challenge fate itself by racing down the highway faster than anyone had before, determined to conquer all 64 curves with unmatched speed. Witnesses recall the night of the race as stormy, with thick fog rolling in and rain slicking the pavement. Jack, clad in his worn leather jacket and helmet, revved his motorcycle's engine at the summit of the hill, poised to make his record-breaking descent. As he sped through the curves, the sound of his bike echoed through the valley, thrilling and terrifying in equal measure. But near the final, most dangerous turn, Jack lost control. His bike crashed violently against a rocky embankment. Emergency responders arrived too late. Jack succumbed to his injuries before dawn. Since that tragic night, stories began to circulate among locals. On every anniversary of Jack's death, witnesses report seeing a ghostly motorcycle blazing down the Old Spiral Highway. The phantom bike emits a high-pitched scream, its engine roaring louder than any real motorcycle. Those nearby say the air turns cold, and a faint glow surrounds the apparition as it races fiercely down the hill. Yet, as it approaches the final turn, the very place where Jack's life ended, the spectral motorcycle suddenly vanishes without a trace. Many who have heard or witnessed the Phantom Racer describe a sense of awe mixed with dread. Some say the ghost is trying to finish the race Jack never completed, forever trapped in a cycle of defiance and fate. Others believe the spirit warns travelers of the highway's dangers, a supernatural guardian that keeps its tragic history alive. Motorcycle riders, especially those familiar with Old Spiral Highway, often share tales of strange encounters during night rides. Some recount the chilling feeling of being followed by an unseen rider, only to find themselves alone when they glance back. Others claim their motorcycles' engines mysteriously revved louder for no reason, or their headlights flickered as if acknowledging the presence of another racer. A few even swear they saw a spectral figure racing alongside them, dressed in old-fashioned riding gear, eyes glowing faintly beneath a cracked helmet. The legend has woven itself into the culture of Lewiston and the surrounding communities. Annual memorial rides take place around the anniversary of Jack's death, where motorcyclists gather to honor his memory and share stories of the Phantom Racer. These events are both a celebration of Jack's passion for speed and a reminder of the risks posed by Old Spiral Highway's treacherous curves. Despite the ghost stories, the highway remains a popular route for drivers and riders seeking adventure and stunning views. Authorities caution travelers to drive carefully, especially in poor weather conditions when the road becomes particularly dangerous. The spirit of the Phantom Racer, whether real or imagined, adds a supernatural edge to the experience of navigating this twisting mountain road. Researchers and paranormal enthusiasts have visited Old Spiral Highway to investigate the strange phenomena. Using audio equipment and night vision cameras, some have captured unexplained engine noises and faint shapes darting through the mist. However, solid evidence remains elusive, fueling debate over whether the Phantom Racer is a lingering spirit, a collective hallucination, or a trick of the mountain's acoustics. The story of the Phantom Racer touches on universal themes of human ambition, tragedy, and a desire to leave a mark. Jack's determination to conquer the highway and the haunting replay of his final ride remind us of the fine line between courage and recklessness. The legend endures because it speaks to the heart of anyone who has felt the thrill of speed and the cold breath of mortality. In the quiet hours of the night, when the wind howls through the pines and the moon casts silver shadows on the pavement, Old Spiral Highway waits. The road holds its breath, anticipating the return of its most famous racer. Engines roar to life, tires screech in defiance of the curves, and the Phantom Racer charges down the hill once more, racing against time, fate, and oblivion. And as the final turn approaches, the ghostly figure vanishes, leaving only the echo of a scream and the lingering mystery that has captivated Lewiston for nearly a century. Travelers crossing Snoqualmie Pass in Washington are often struck by its raw beauty. Towering evergreens line the slopes, mist weaves between jagged peaks, and snow blankets the region for much of the year, creating an otherworldly landscape. But behind the scenic views lies a chilling legend known to locals and hikers alike. The crying shadows. The phenomenon is most often reported near the forest rest stops scattered along the pass. Drivers pulling over to stretch their legs or use the facilities often hear what sounds like soft weeping coming from the nearby woods. At first, it seems human. Faint sobs, broken gasps for air, sometimes even a desperate plea for help. Concerned travelers venture toward the sound, calling out, expecting to find an injured hiker or stranded camper. And there is never a single person there. When they return to their vehicles, many describe feeling as though they're not alone. They glance back toward the tree line and swear they see movement, not solid shapes, but shadows darker than the night itself, gliding between the trunks in jerky, unnatural motions. Witnesses insist the figures have no faces, no edges, just outlines of human forms that dissolve into the mist when stared at directly. Some brave souls have lingered, determined to debunk the stories, only to hear the sobbing start again, now closer, as though someone is crying right behind them. Theories about the origin of the crying shadows are as varied as the reports themselves. Some believe these are the restless souls of those who perished in deadly winter wrecks. Snoqualmie Pass is notorious for its treacherous icy conditions, and decades of accidents have claimed countless lives. Locals whisper that the spirits of those who died unprepared, cold, and alone remain tethered to the spot where their final breaths froze in the mountain air. Others claim something far older is buried beneath the dense forest floor. There are stories of an ancient burial ground hidden deep in the woods, disturbed long ago by road construction. According to tribal legends, certain places in the Cascades were marked as sacred and were never meant to be crossed. Whether true or not, hikers who camp near the pass sometimes report vivid nightmares of drowning, waking up gasping, clawing at their sleeping bags as though fighting unseen water. They leave in the morning pale and shaken, often abandoning their gear just to escape quickly. Even more unsettling are accounts from those who hike the nearby trails alone. Several have described the feeling of being watched, of footsteps following just out of sync with their own. When they stop, the steps stop. When they turn around, there is only silence and stillness, until they start walking again, and the faint crunch of movement returns, closer than before. To this day, no one has ever captured a clear photograph or recording of the crying shadows. But the stories persist, passed down by campers, truckers, and travelers, who swear the sound of that weeping is as real as the cold wind cutting through the mountain pass. Whether spirits of the dead, echoes of tragedy, or something much older and darker, one thing remains certain. If you stop along Snoqualmie Pass after dark and hear someone crying for help, you might think twice before stepping into the trees. Highway 47, a remote and winding stretch of road near Vernonia, Oregon, is known for its lush forests and tranquil scenery. But as night falls and the shadows deepen, this quiet highway becomes the setting for a haunting tale, one whispered among locals and feared by travelers alike. It is here that the legend of the Siren's Song was born, a ghostly melody that lures unsuspecting drivers into danger. The story goes back many years to a woman named Evelyn, a gifted singer with a voice as sweet as the summer breeze. Evelyn was known throughout Vernonia for her lullabies, songs she sang softly to calm her own restless nights and comfort her young son. Her gentle humming was a soothing presence in the community, a reminder of warmth and love amid the wild Oregon wilderness. One fateful evening, Evelyn was driving home along Highway 47 after a late performance. Exhausted from the demands of her life, she began to nod off behind the wheel. The highway's sharp curves and narrow shoulders offered little margin for error. As she drifted into sleep, her car veered off the road and crashed into a deep roadside ditch. Despite efforts to save her, Evelyn succumbed to her injuries before dawn. After Evelyn's tragic death, strange reports began to surface. Late at night, drivers traveling along Highway 47 claimed to hear a woman humming a lullaby carried on the wind. The song was soft and sweet, almost hypnotic, as if calling out to those who heard it. Those who listened closely often found themselves compelled to follow the melody, their eyes fixed on the haunting tune as it seemed to float along the dark road. But the Siren's Song is no ordinary lullaby. It is said to be a deadly enchantment, a spectral voice that draws drivers away from the safety of the highway. Many who pursued the sound vanished from memory, later found stranded in roadside ditches or tangled in the forest underbrush, their minds blank and their memories lost. Some barely escaped with their lives, confused and shaken, unable to explain how they ended up off the road or why they had followed a ghostly song in the first place. Locals in Vernonia warn travelers not to follow the music. They say the siren is Evelyn's restless spirit, forever trapped in the place where her life ended. Her song, once a tender lullaby, has become a siren's cold allure that drags others toward an eternal rest. The highway's curves, once mere bends in the road, are now traps set by the spectral singer to claim new victims. Those familiar with the road share chilling anecdotes. Some drivers recall the moment they first heard the humming, soft and distant at first, then growing louder and more insistent. Others describe a ghostly figure standing just beyond the tree line, cloaked in mist, her lips moving silently or her mouth forming the shape of a lullaby sung long ago. A few claim to have seen her eyes sad, mournful, and filled with longing. Many who have encountered the siren's song describe an overwhelming feeling of calm and peace, as if the music washes away their fears and doubts. Yet beneath that soothing facade lies a sinister force, pulling them off course and into danger. The road that seemed familiar suddenly twists and turns in unfamiliar ways, leading them into the ditch or deeper into the forest. Some drivers wake hours later with no recollection of how they got there, their memories wiped clean by the spectral melody. In response to these eerie events, the community has taken steps to protect travelers. Warning signs have been posted along the most dangerous stretches of Highway 47, cautioning drivers to stay alert and ignore any strange sounds. Residents also advise against traveling the road alone at night and suggest using headlights and radios to drown out any mysterious singing. Paranormal investigators have tried to capture evidence of the siren's song. Audio recordings sometimes pick up faint humming, and night vision cameras have occasionally caught glimpses of a faint, glowing figure near the roadside. However, definitive proof remains elusive, and skeptics argue that the sounds might be natural echoes, wind passing through the trees, or the imagination of tired drivers. Despite the warnings and the risks, some thrill seekers are drawn to Highway 47 by the allure of the legend. They venture out at night hoping to catch a glimpse of the ghostly singer or to experience the siren's call firsthand. Many return with stories of strange sensations, unexplained chills, and fleeting visions. A few, however, do not come back at all, their disappearances adding new chapters to the haunting tale. The siren's song of Highway 47 is more than a ghost story. It is a warning and a testament to the power of grief and loss. Evelyn's voice, once a source of comfort, now echoes through the darkness as a reminder of the dangers lurking beneath the surface of quiet roads and peaceful forests. Her restless spirit, caught between worlds, continues to sing her lullaby, drawing travelers into the shadows with a deadly promise. For those who drive along Highway 47 after dark, the lesson is clear. Never follow the music. The road may seem safe, but the siren's song waits patiently in the night, ready to lead the unwary into the ditch and into the embrace of the restless ghost who sings to claim them. Cougar Dam Road, a secluded stretch winding through Oregon's dense forest near the reservoir, is quiet by day and unnervingly still by night. But when the fog rolls in, thick, fast, and sudden, this tranquil mountain road turns into something far more sinister. Locals call it the whispering fog, and many refuse to travel the road after dusk. The fog isn't ordinary. It doesn't creep. It descends like a curtain, swallowing trees, signs, and even sound. What makes it terrifying, however, are the voices that come with it. Drivers have long reported hearing whispers drifting through the mist, soft at first, barely distinguishable from the hum of tires on wet pavement. But as the fog thickens, so do the whispers. They grow clearer, stranger, speaking in languages no one can recognize. The tones range from urgent to sorrowful to eerily calm, but they all share one trait: they sound impossibly close, as if someone is right outside the car window. Some whispers are even more disturbing. Travelers have heard the unmistakable voices of loved ones, people who are nowhere near the road. A mother swore she heard her daughter calling for help from the trees. A man claimed his dead father's voice whispered a lullaby he hadn't heard since childhood. These encounters leave many shaken, uncertain whether what they heard was real or something the fog conjured from memory and emotion. One of the most chilling stories tied to Cougar Dam Road involves a man named Jason, a local teacher driving home one foggy evening. His wife reported that he had called her just 15 minutes before, saying he was near the dam and would be home soon. But Jason never arrived. When authorities found his car the next morning, it was parked along the roadside with the engine still idling and the headlights cutting through the fog. The door was open. There were no signs of struggle. No footprints leading into the woods, just the heavy silence of the mist and a lingering chill in the air. The most unsettling detail came from a truck driver who passed the same stretch of road that night. He said he saw a figure standing in the middle of the fog, motionless, as if waiting. It looked like a woman, but her features were obscured. The trucker slowed, uncertain, but the figure vanished as quickly as it appeared. He later recognized Jason's photo from a missing person report. It was the same stretch of road, the same night. Some believe the whispering fog is tied to the dam itself. Construction workers in the 1960s reported hearing strange murmurs in the early morning mist during the dam's building phase. Others say the fog is connected to something older, an ancient spirit in the land, awakened by the disruption of the natural environment. Whatever the cause, the voices persist, heard most often in the deep hours of the night when the road is empty and the forest is still. Paranormal investigators have visited Cougar Dam Road in hopes of capturing proof of the whispers. Some claim to have recorded faint voices on audio equipment, indecipherable and otherworldly. A few report experiencing a sudden and overwhelming sense of grief, as if the fog carries not just voices, but emotions too. Skeptics argue it's just imagination or atmospheric tricks. But even they admit the road feels off. When the mist settles in, the roads remember us, and just like that, our ghostly journey through the most haunted highways of the Pacific Northwest comes to an end. But don't be fooled into thinking the road ends here. Because some roads never forget. They remember every crash, every scream, every soul that wandered off and never made it home. They remember the headlights that blinked out too soon, the last radio song before silence, the fog that rolled in just a little too thick. These highways are more than pavement and paint. They're living, breathing paths through history and heartbreak. Haunted not just by ghosts, but by memories that refuse to fade. So the next time you're driving a lonely stretch of road, maybe late at night, when your phone's lost signal, and even the stars feel far away, listen closely. Is that just the wind? Or a whisper from someone who never made it out? Was that a shadow or something watching? Whatever you do, drive safe, trust your gut, and remember, never stop for hitchhikers that vanish when you blink. Thank you for riding with us through the darkness. If you enjoyed this journey into the haunted highways of the Pacific Northwest, be sure to like, comment your favorite scary spot, and subscribe for more eerie adventures. Until next time.